Today is the day that NHL training camps open. We learned a lot about a variety of NHL teams today, a lot of injuries that we were not necessarily aware of. Plus, we get some ideas from NHL GMs and coaches what teams might be looking to do as far as moves and player movement and trades. So today we're looking at a variety of trade talk around teams like New Jersey, Toronto, Ottawa, and Utah. Some updates on Edmonton regarding Connor McDavid. Even Coach Knobloch needs a contract extension as well. Several injury updates from around the NHL as well coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we've got lots to discuss here today. We're getting one step closer to having hockey back. The NHL season for 25-26 training camps open today, which is great news. Players were not really on the ice. Today is doing physicals and testing and that type of stuff. We'll see more players hitting the ice tomorrow. And in some cases, some players are not going to be hitting the ice because of some injuries and things that they've been dealing with that we really weren't mostly as fans aware of, given the fact that we've had so little updates from NHL teams and general managers especially. So pretty well traditional on the opening day of training camp for NHL general managers, coaches, sometimes a few players to speak to the media and kind of give some updates and kind of an idea where everything is at. So let's go through a bunch of injury updates. We've got a couple of signings as well, and then we'll get into all the speculation that we might see. So first up, Boston Bruins star forward David Pastrnak won't be on the ice for the first few days of training camp. Apparently he was dealing with a tendonitis issue towards the end of training before coming to training camp. So I'm not sure the exact timeline, but he will definitely be off the ice for at least a few days. Hopefully that's not something that lingers into the season, because that can be something that sometimes can be problematic to get under control and to completely move on from it. You sometimes need some extended rest. So we'll see what happens with Pastrnak, but don't expect him on the ice to at least start training camp. The Lightning confirmed today that forward Nick Paul is going to be missing some fairly significant time. We're probably looking at about sometime in mid to late November, or at the very least sometime in November. They weren't really completely clear, but based on what they had to say, it sure sounds like it's going to be at least partway through November. Apparently he had surgery just last week. He had tried rehabbing an injury over the course of the offseason. That did not really get it where it needed to be, so they've opted to get the surgery so that when he does come back, he can hopefully move on from it and hopefully stay healthy for the rest of the year. But the Lightning will be without Nick Paul for at least the first month to 6 weeks of the season. The Buffalo Sabres today also had a couple of injury updates as well. They've confirmed the rumored injury to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. They're calling it day-to-day, though. So to bring in another goalie on a confirmed contract with a day-to-day issue just seems a little suspicious to me. I wonder if it's something that could be more than that, and they're just still learning more about the injury. We'll have to see, but Luukkonen's dealing with something going into camp here. Alex Tuch is also day-to-day. Shouldn't miss too much time, but may miss the first couple days of all-ice activities. And Jordan Greenway is going to be out as well. He apparently had another core surgery in July and is not ready to return here just yet. He's probably going to miss training camp and be late starting the season as well. In Toronto, they confirmed that Max Domi is dealing with a lower body injury and will not be a full participant to start training camp. He will, I believe, I'm pretty sure they said he is going to be on the ice doing some things, but could be skating on his own, won't be fully participating in everything, but hopefully it's not something that lingers too long and he can become a full participant partway through training camp. Florida Panthers, of course, we already knew this, but they confirmed again Matthew Tkachuk will be out. They said until at least December. Most other reporters were saying they were hearing probably January, but either way, December to January, it's going to be at least probably a good 3 months of recovery for Matthew Tkachuk here. They're also going to be without bottom six centerman Thomas Nosek, who had to have knee surgery in the summer as well, and he's going to miss the first few months of the season. Of course, given the fact that they went all the way to the finals, won the cup again, and like everything else is like Tkachuk ended up having surgery quite late, so not quite ready to go, and he's probably going to be out for October, November. By the looks of things, I would say probably sometime in December would be when we would expect Nosek to be back. The Avalanche, too, are confirmed that Mackenzie Blackwood Of course, their starting goaltender is considered week to week. They're still hopeful that he'll be ready to roll for game 1 of the season, but certainly not the kind of start you want to training camp. Missing a whole week of camp at least is not going to be good for the netminder, so we'll keep an eye on that situation. We knew Zach Hyman with Edmonton, of course, had a serious injury going into the latter part of the playoffs, and we knew he had his arm in a cast from the wrist injury. He is out of the cast now, but he's still far from a guarantee that he'll be able to be ready to go for game 1. So he's getting closer, progressing, but could still be late starting. That'll need to be confirmed. St. Louis confirmed that defenseman Torrey Krug, who we had already heard a long time ago, was not expected to ever play hockey again, but he still has to go yearly for a physical to confirm that. Same thing that Carey Price just had to do in San Jose. But they did confirm that Krug is not able to return and definitely won't be playing just like they suspected. A couple of signings today and a PTO as well. The Calgary Flames have extended captain Michael Backlund, 2-year contract extension at $3.25 million. Pretty favorable deal for the team, I think, for what he brings in leadership and a bit of offense and two-way play. I think that's more than a fair deal. We had heard from Backlund on one of the interviews for the European leg of the NHL Media Tour just a few weeks back, and Backlund had talked to Elliotte Friedman on his 32 Thoughts podcast and made it pretty clear that he really wanted to stay in Calgary and he wanted to extend and hopefully finish his career there. And, well, that appears to be something that they've worked out. I can't say for sure he'll retire after 2 more years, but given the fact he's got 1 left and then 2 more extended, that gives him 3 more at his age. I mean, it could be. We'll have to wait and see, but I think they're quite content, both sides, to have him continue to lead them here for a couple more years. The St. Louis Blues have also extended Nathan Walker, bottom 6 forward, but a hard-working one at that, of course, with Australian roots. Gets a 2-year contract at $887,500. So that gives him 2 more years and gets him a bit of a raise on his contract. They're quite content to have Walker in the organization at that kind of contract here for a couple more seasons. Of course, we'd heard some speculation about former Duck, Red Wing, St. Louis Blue, Robbie Fabbri, likely getting a PTO somewhere. So there was a few teams. I know there was some speculation about Ottawa, but he's actually going to be going to camp with Pittsburgh. The Senators, actually, speaking of them, they confirmed they do not have anybody on a PTO. So Fabbri goes with the Penguins to camp trying to earn a contract based on how he's played. I mean, really, his biggest issue his whole career is staying healthy, but he has had some healthier seasons where he's been able to score 15, 20 goals. When he was younger, he was really viewed upon as a pretty solid goal-scoring winger. If it hadn't been for the injuries, he probably would have had a much more successful career here so far. Now, we also learned a few other things here today. We'll start with Edmonton. Of course, we got the 32 Thoughts podcast that came out this morning with Elliotte Friedman, having a chance to interview both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, separate interviews. Of course, the Edmonton Oilers were the only team that did not send players to the NHL Media Tour, so they didn't have a chance to speak with anybody. So Sportsnet, being the rights holder, were able to arrange Elliotte to go to Edmonton with Kyle Bukauskas and do a couple of 32 Thoughts interviews with McDavid and with Draisaitl. So, of course, with McDavid, they had to bring up the topic of the contract extension, and every time he talks about it, he says some interesting things, and for the most part, his message has been pretty consistent, but basically he continued to reiterate the fact that it's one of the biggest decisions of his life. He fully intends to take his time, wants to make sure that he gets everything right here. It's a big deal for him, his family, wife, and all that. He's they love Edmonton. They want to win in Edmonton. He reiterates that as well, and kind of just trying to walk and talk through it, so to speak, to make sure they make the right choice. I mean, Elliot did ask him. He's like, so I assume you've talked to the Oilers and you've kind of let them know, what's important to you and what you need to see in order to sign an extension, and let them know, what are those things that are important? What does that look like to you? Like, what do you need to see from them to say, okay, I'm ready to commit on an extension, and for however long you decide you want to commit for? And the answer was, I thought it was kind of weird. He kind of says, don't really, nothing really. Nothing was his answer. He said the pieces are here. I'm comfortable with 25, 26. It's just going to be a feeling when the time is right. But as of right now, I'm just excited to get the season going. So I'm assuming he just doesn't want to say. But the big thing here that we can take from this is I don't think anybody should think McDavid wants out of Edmonton. I don't get that feeling. I just think like he's comfortable with this team in the short term. They've been to back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals. The coming up season here is going to be a big telling tale here. Matt Savoy, Ike Howard are going to be big roles. They have a chance to solidify themselves with significant roles moving forward. If they struggle, it could be problematic. But at the end of the day, he wants to be able to be competitive and have a chance to win every year. And he wants to be comfortable that they've got the pieces to not just compete for the next year or two, but for many years to come. And I don't know that he's comfortable with that yet, given the fact that a lot of his teammates, as much as they're good players and he sees them as being key pieces now, they're all older than him. Look at Ekholm, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins. It's not a younger team, right? They don't have a lot of up-and-coming young talent to kind of sustain this super long. So it could be a short window, and that's what he's concerned about. So he needs, I think, to see that they've got the plans in place to make sure that they are competitive year after year. And how he's going to come to that conclusion or how they're going to show him that, I don't know. And that's why things are at a standstill. Essentially, it has nothing to do with money. Stan Bowman did, of course, like all GMs, spoke to the media today and said whenever he talks to Connor, it's not about money. It's about the direction of the team. They will give McDavid whatever number he wants for term and money. That's not an issue. So we will see. But it just, I don't know. I mean, as time goes on, I can see how this, I just don't see how it doesn't become a distraction for the team. But he's talked about the fact that, the easy part should be playing hockey. And if people can't focus on the game, then maybe they shouldn't be pro hockey players. So he's been pretty blunt about that. We'll see. Now, the other piece of business here with the Oilers that we're waiting on, as well as an extension for head coach Chris Knobloch, who's done phenomenal work and gotten great results with this team since he's taken over. He is entering the last year of his contract, and he said as well that he's quite hopeful that they will get an extension done and in place before the season starts as well. So that should be pretty easy to do. I would probably see him getting 4 or 5 year extension, but we'll see where all that goes. Now, one goaltender that's going to be on the market, which I kind of wondered about, but we haven't really had clear updates on until now. But Utah Mammoth goaltender Connor Ingram will not be returning with the Utah Mammoth this year. He's not going to be attending training camp. We know when we had heard just back not long ago that he was fully released from the NHLPA Player Assistance Program that he had been in for several months. He was cleared from that, ready to resume playing hockey, but decided by mutual agreement for both sides that he should have a fresh start. Now, there's been some rumors about Utah being one of the teams interested in Carter Hart. Based on comments from the team's media, it doesn't sound like they want to confirm that or they haven't been able to confirm that. But no matter what, Ingram is a goaltender on a 1-year deal. He's got 1 year left. A 1.95. I mean, last year wasn't great for him. He played in like 22 games and then he ended up going to this program for assistance, right? So really, it wasn't a great season on the ice. But I don't know. I mean, we obviously don't know the full details of what he was dealing with, but I don't know that it's really fair to, to really use that as a major judging point. If you go back to the season before, he had a really good season, 23-24. He had a 907 save percentage. He was allowing 2.9 goals per game. Had a decent result then when that was their final year of the Arizona Coyotes. Like, I don't know. He has potential. He's 28 now. He's a little bit older goaltender, but still somebody who I think deserves an opportunity. And I do wonder about Edmonton with him. It could be another guy that come in and challenge Skinner for some starts. He's got a decent age, doesn't make a ton of money. If they can't find a trade for Connor Ingram here in the next little bit, they are going to put him on waivers so that another team can claim him and he can get a fresh start somewhere. But they've mutually agreed that it's in both sides' best interest for him to carry on. Now, some updates from the Ottawa Senators, and we will also get another case of a fresh start coming out of that organization. But first, we confirmed that today with team information that Lars Eller and Nick Jensen both likely won't be on the ice for at least the first couple days of camp for the on-ice stuff. Lars Eller apparently had to have an abdominal procedure later into the offseason, so he is still kind of recovering from that. It's not expected to be anything long-term at all, but he could be a little bit slower getting into training camp because of it. And Nick Jensen, of course, we know is recovering from a big hip surgery. We've seen lots of videos that his family has posted of him doing like rollerblading and lots of different activities throughout the season. So I think he's getting closer to returning, but they certainly want to take their caution with him, make sure that he's fully recovered and takes the right steps to get on the ice so he doesn't have any setbacks. So it is expected that he likely will miss at least a bit to start camp, and then we'll kind of get some updates from there. Shane Pinto, of course, a huge part of the Sens' future. It was confirmed by Steve Staios, the GM, that he and Pinto's agent have began conversations on a contract extension. Pinto, of course, goes into the final year of his contract now that he extended as a 2-year deal, bridge deal after the gambling suspension. Right now, Steve says that all the conversations have been very positive, and they're hoping to get him locked up long term. But that's still, I think, a little bit early in that process. We'll see where things go. The bigger news out of Ottawa today is that they did confirm, for the first time they even said his name or acknowledged it at all, but the Ottawa Senators and Steve Staios confirmed that former Senator now, Alex Formenton, even though he has been allowed to return to the NHL come December the 1st and can sign a contract in October, they still technically hold his rights. Out of the 5 players in that situation, he's the only one that actually has his rights held because he was actually out of the NHL before any of them. And they had provided a qualifying offer to him, and then throughout that summer is when, before they ever signed anything, is when everything kind of started coming to light and the team opted not to sign him. So they still hold his rights. So there's no way to just relinquish that, apparently. So Staios was saying that he has talked with Formenton's agent, and they've also both come to the mutual agreement that it's best in his best interest and the team's best interest that they have a fresh start. So they are going to try to see if there is a trade out there to trade the signing rights of Alex Formenton to another NHL club if there's a team out there that would like to have a crack at signing him. So Alex Formenton, for those that were wondering, will not return to the Ottawa Senators and will be he'll be able to be traded. We know they're going to trade him. It's just a matter of when a team wants to pick him up, I guess. We'll have to wait and see on that. In New Jersey, again, more talk around Luke Hughes. Of course, it's going to be close here. After, if they don't sign something by tomorrow, he's not going to be on the ice, which is not good to miss training camp. I know, listening to his brother Jack a short time ago, it sure sounds like Jack thinks he's going to be the number 1 defenseman on the team here anytime. So, basically, a lot of the reporters, and Elliot Friedman even mentioned this too, that a long-term contract for Hughes might kind of complicate things for Dougie Hamilton, might reduce his role. They're going to want to get Hughes more on the power play, get him more offensive playing time, and kind of makes Hamilton's role a little bit redundant to a certain degree. He's making a lot of money, so clearly you don't really want to have a $9 million player not be in that kind of spot. So it is possible that maybe not immediately, depends on how the contract works out with Hughes and what else they have to do, but it's expected that Dougie Hamilton's future could be in question based on what they end up signing Hughes to. Now in Toronto as well, Brad Treliving did confirm a number of things. As I mentioned, the Domi injury. I know Craig Berube's comment I thought was kind of comical, saying, basically it's the first training camp life without Mitch Marner. And Berube's comment was he's just happy that he doesn't have to hear the term core forward anymore. This is something that's been a long time in Toronto. We don't have to say or hear that any longer, but essentially they did confirm that they are indeed still looking for a top 6 forward. He says not for lack of trying, not for lack of effort. For right now, Max Domi and Matthias Michelli will be the top guys getting a chance to audition to play on that top line with Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes, and we will see how things work out. But the Leafs are definitely actively looking for top 6 forward for sure. And the names that we've heard all summer that are still out there that they kind of do need to move for cap flexibility, whether it be David Kampf, Kelly Yarncroke, or to some degree Nick Robertson, either one or any of those guys could be moved, and I'm just not sure when they're going to find that trade, because it feels like it's been forever and a day that we've heard that they've been trying to do that, and so far have come up short. But ultimately, the Leafs are trying to make moves. They're not done really trying to improve this roster, but for right now, they're prepared to go into camp and work with what they have to see where everything kind of lands. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here today. We'll talk about it further down in the comments. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.